Hello and welcome to Will's webinar, February editions of Will's webinar. And I'm really looking forward to this evening as we're going to be talking about Irresistible Charisma with my good friend Faisal, and it's going to be epic. So Faisal, good evening.
Good evening, Will. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. Great to have you on Will's webinar. I know it's been something that we've been talking about. Well, I think we initially started talking about getting you on about summer last year. So great to be actually able to have you on, and thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with the community tonight.
Thank you for having me, and hello everybody. Good morning, good evening.
So first of all, guys, what I just want to do for those of you that haven't been on before, so I can see sort of everyone's joining in now, which is great. For those of you that haven't joined in before, there's a couple of things I just want to make you aware of. This is interactive. This isn't just about Faisal and I, and the way that we make it interactive is via our Facebook group. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to post a link in the chat for you now. Now, we don't use the chat, right? We don't use the chat that I've just posted to you. Hopefully I've given that to everyone yet, not in our private group. So you guys now have access to the Elite Network community, which is our Facebook group. We've got nearly 4,000 people in that group. So if you haven't joined already, get yourself joined in. And then via doing that, I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. He says, but I can't see. Here we go. And then what will happen is, hopefully you guys can see my screen now, is what will happen is you'll see that there is a post that I did, which is this post here, which is the official Will's webinar thread. I'm going to be monitoring this the whole time Faisal and I are speaking. So any questions you have, put them there. And the reason why we put the questions in the Facebook group and not in the chat is because then afterwards, all of the questions are still there. And then I've got one of my team that will be keeping notes and making things that are relevant as they're listening to the webinar, guys. So make sure you're posting your notes, your questions in the Facebook group. If you're not on Facebook and you don't use Facebook, then feel free to use the chat. But it's definitely better to be involved in the community and be posting them in the community there. So I'll leave that there for a minute just to make sure everybody is joining it. So Faisal, for those people that are tuning in that maybe haven't seen who you are, I had the privilege of meeting you in person for the first time last year. And I must admit, and I know I said this to you earlier, there's some people, guys, that you just meet in life and you just know you're going to get on with, and you just know they're incredible human beings, and there's just something about them. There's just something incredible about them. And I remember joking with Faisal at the time saying, there was lots of things that I liked about him, particularly his silver hair, which he's very much known for. I mean, I'm losing mine, so it'd be great if I even make it to grey. But one of the things that I remember joking about was your posture. You've got the most incredible posture I've ever seen. Just one of your many qualities. But for the people that don't maybe know too much about you, who are you?
Hi, so good evening. Yeah, it was great. It was great connecting with you, Will. And yeah, I heard about you too. So I said, I just got to meet this guy. And then we had an amazing mastermind. So yeah, it's about me. My name is Faisal, and I got into personal development about 5 years ago after a awakening, as I call it. Before that, I was very much working in IT. I was a computer scientist, computer geek. I used to work on web stuff, and I used to work behind a machine. So most of my life I spent behind a machine. And one of the things I realized, I really lacked social skills. I lacked, the charismatic skills that, you always think about, you always see on TV, you see them on, like movies, you think, wow, this person has real presence about them. And what is it? It's like, what is it? So I went on this journey just trying to debunk some of the concepts and ideas and thinking like, how can I put this in my life? How can I become this person or add these traits and values into my life? So yeah, I spent a lot of time doing a lot of research, speaking to thousands and thousands of people. The great thing is that, I get to speak around the world, which is phenomenal. And, just connect with so many people, and there's always patterns. There's something that you see over and over again. There's a pattern. And what I like to do now is I teach my clients, and I teach in my workshops these patterns and how we can really overcome some of the obstacles that we think sometimes, it can never be me.
So just to be clear, you are no longer a computer scientist. You're not going around the world speaking as a computer scientist.
No, no, not at all. I haven't done any programming or built machines or destroyed them for some time now. So sometimes I get tempted just to. I remember a few months ago I opened up a machine. I was like, wow, I used to do this, and sometimes I look at some programming stuff, but I get tempted by it. But yeah, most of the time I speak about freedom and connection. I spend a lot of time talking about relationships.
Yeah.
Because it was the relationship that really woke me up. And, I was married for 9 years. I've got 2 beautiful boys, amazing, amazing souls. Again, my greatest teachers are them. They're my greatest teachers. I learned so much from them. They give me so much. And they challenge me so much as well. As any parent would also, would know that, kids, they bring out all aspects of you. But yeah, I've been going around speaking on relationships. One of the things I really enjoyed is learning about masculinity. So what it is about being a man in today's world. Things I didn't have when I was growing up was I had an amazing father. My father and mother were great, but they had their also challenges too. And I didn't really have that healthy masculine kind of like presence. And this world is really crying out for this. There's so much talk about, toxic masculinity, and there's a lot of guys that are feeling lost, confused. And again, I was one of those men as well. I like, how do I stand in this world? How do I show up in this world? And why is it my, relationship is suffering? Why is it my past relationship suffered? So I went on this quest to discover and answer these questions. And now what I do is I love sharing all of these now. So, tonight is a great opportunity. If you have any questions on this, fire away.
So I'm just going to touch on it because I always find it interesting, and I know that the people listening will find it interesting, is how people make that transition from what I call their past life into what they do now in the personal development space. So obviously you kind of mentioned that you maybe didn't have this masculine figure, although you had a father, you didn't have this masculine figure. You kind of felt lost yourself. What was the catalyst that really propelled you into personal development?
It was my breakup. So the breakup, it wasn't actually the fact that I knew the relationship was struggling, but it was the fact that when my ex-wife, she said, we can't carry on like this way, and what it was, that pain, that jolt was my awakening. That was the start of my, as you call it, the call to adventure, the hero's journey. That's where it started. Before that, there were so many calls, but it was like that sledgehammer said, bang, wake up. And I love the saying, the universe has shaken you to awaken you. And that's exactly what it did.
The universe has shaken you to awaken you. So what you're saying is that what some people would perceive as a negative thing, i.e. a breakup, right, was that catalyst that kind of sent you off on this journey to be able to do what you do now, not only to benefit others, but ultimately to benefit yourself, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It was a great awakening. I call it my worst day of my life because it was so painful. And then my kids now live with their mum far away. And also it was my best day because it gave me the opportunity to grow as a person. Before I spent most of my time as on autopilot, and I also had this typical kind of like attitude that, hey, I don't need any help. I'm a man. I'm smart. I can fix machines, like some of the complex things, and I can fix myself. I'm thinking, I'm an island, and no man's an island. We need support. We need a lot of support. We need a lot of encouragement. We need a lot of love, and then obviously, we want to give that back too. So that is now my, receiving that is my, my mission now here. My purpose is to help people and support people who may be challenged right now. Maybe they're feeling lost. Maybe they don't, they're not sure where they are. So just to be there for them.
And just to be clear, it's obviously, I know you mentioned a lot about masculinity and masculine energy, but it's not just men that you work for. And tonight, Irresistible Charisma, which we're going to be talking about, is for both guys and girls, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to talk about, so one of the things I really love talking about is like what builds attraction. What builds attraction between men and women, or even two same-sex people as well. So we talked about the masculine and feminine, the dances between that, and also how can we show up more attractive in the world. Not just the sense of the visually attractive, but also the person that you want to become, and people gravitate towards. So it's not just people that gravitate towards you, but also opportunities. So when you become more charismatic, when you become more attractive, you're attracting opportunities. You're attracting, opening more doors. It's the way you're moving in the world.
Yeah. No, I completely get that. I talk a lot about in my whole story. My uncles play a big role, and my uncle Mark and Uncle Steve, and I make a reference that financially they were very successful, and still are very successful. I mean, one's a billionaire, one's a multi-millionaire. But
wow.
Not only that, they're the people that when you're in the room, they've almost got they're like kind of surrounded. They're the life and soul of the party. They're the people that people want to be around. The people gravitate towards them. So. Charisma, then you have a sort of a few different areas to creating sort of irresistible charisma. Is that right? I'm right in saying there's 4 of them?
Yeah, so there's 4 components I kind of work on with my clients and with people, and it's kind of like I want to simplify things rather than like sometimes we get bogged down with so much complexity. So I love this saying, like, keep it simple, stupid. And we want to keep it simple because if something's too complex, then we find it hard to execute. So there's 4 elements to it. First is the energy. Okay, energy is light energy. When somebody is of light energy, okay, you want to be around in their company. You like say when somebody's of like light energy. So what I mean by light energy, they're fun. They're fun to be around. They're more what do you call it? They're more forgiving kind of nature. It doesn't mean that they don't have strict boundaries. They can have really amazing boundaries, but they're fun to be around. They like to be around. But they are also one of the things. So their energy is also loving as well. So when you leave that person, you always feel like, you know what? I really enjoyed myself. Enjoyed my time with that person. And they also bring out the good in you, and they bring out the good in the situation. They bring out the good in you. They bring out the good in other people. So this is what I call light energy. And someone who is the opposite, the polar side of this, is somebody who's feeling, for example, they're like, oh my God, the world's crap, the world's shit, and my exes were this, my past was this. And some of those people, they don't even have to say those words, but you can feel them. You can feel their presence, right? So one of the things is how powerful your presence is, because your presence enters a room before you do. Now, I've asked this to many, like a big female audience, and I said, ladies, have you ever been in a party in a room when a guy walks in and you feel his presence before you've actually seen him? And the majority of them say, yes, we do. We feel it. So there's the whole thing about the energy. Energy, everything's energy. As Albert Einstein said, everything is energy. So light energy is crucial aspect of it. When you go on dates, when you sit down in front of people in meetings, you just feel the tension in them, or you feel the lightness in them.
Yeah, I completely get it. Maurice just said that she can't hear me. So guys, if you can hear me okay, can you just comment on the Facebook group or comment in the group chat, just so you can. Not everybody can. I haven't had any issues so far, but yeah. So Nicholas saying she can hear me. So I'll bring it a little bit closer. Bring the microphone a little bit closer. So the first component is energy. So what would you give advice to someone that wants to? I mean, we said about being more fun, forgiving, light. So what's your advice to people that then want to improve their energy so that they have that presence when they want to walk in the room?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. First part is I always say, it's time to let go. So there might be aspects of your past that you're holding on to. So there might be some aspects of part that you haven't resolved, and also not forgiven. So there's a hate part of you. There's that unforgiveness part of you. There's unresolved issues that you have. You not only do you carry them in your head because you're ruminating also, but also your body will start carrying them. So your energy, your emotional memory will stay in your cells, and they will then start projecting, emanating out. So you can tell when someone's got um, if you start interacting with someone, and the slight trigger. So if they get triggered, and you can feel maybe the anger come out, or maybe the resentment that comes out. A lot of things is like the forgiveness stuff I do is like work on the forgiveness, letting go of the past, and any resentment energy that you have is to resolve those issues. It really start resolving the issues. And one of the things way we can do that is to start forgiving. And the way I started when I had this breakup, and I had a choice whether to get really angry and mad at it and say this ain't gonna happen, or actually, choose to take 100% responsibility. This was my gift to me. Was I took 100% responsibility of everything that's happening in my world. Everything, not 99%, not 98%. It's like, how am I responsible? How am I responsible for this? And then what I did was I spent a lot of time detoxing my energy. And what is, rather than having anger for my past, what I did was I spent a lot of time writing and forgiving and keep on repeating the same thing over and over again. So every night I would write a journal, and I would write the amazing traits about the people in my life. So with my ex, I wrote some beautiful things about her. I said, look, I want to focus on the good aspects of it. So the kind of person that is, she said, because obviously we have kids together. So every time I want to spend time with my kids, and I spend time with her, I see her, I don't want to have this tension between us. And I said, look, that's the past. I want to have a great energy, and I want the kids to feel this. So if I'm harboring any hate towards her, if I'm harboring any guilt towards her, or shame towards her, all of this will show up in my interactions. And this will show up in your relationships, in other relationships, in businesses, in so many aspects of it.
Yeah, very true. It's interesting. So there's a few quotes I really like, and one of them is, you need to complete your past in order to truly create your future. So having dealt with the past, rather than sort of walk around with it like a big sack of emotional baggage. And the second one, I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember it word for word, but it's something along those lines. Until you heal, unless you heal your cuts from the past, you'll bleed over everybody else, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important. And what you've spoken about there is basically trying to create an equilibrium between stuff from the past with your ex, but by focusing on the good, you can kind of balance it out, so you have a neutral emotional response to it rather than have a negative emotional response to it by your journaling.
Absolutely. And there's aspects, even your day-to-day life as well. So there's the day-to-day life, the things that we kind of innately start developing is judgment. So, when I catch myself judging, and, we all do, there's this aspect to it, or I would say most people will do, is we catch ourselves judging, and we're getting really pissed off with this person, or they've done this, or they've done that. And I'm like, oh shit. So like, I remember, this morning I was just doing Ho'oponopono, like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I just tried to just put some kind, loving energy in myself, and when I catch myself going towards heavy energy, I'm like, okay, so what can I do to bring this back? Now, it's not always immediate. Sometimes we need nature just to naturally dissipate, because a lot of time what happens is that we have this energy, we try to shift it too quickly, and then we have this clash. And when we have this clash, and then it just stays longer and longer, and then we start ruminating. Why can't I get rid of this? So now I'm in a different loop. I should be able to do this. I'm trying to get rid of this. And then we just start overthinking, and it just carries on. So sometimes we just need to be present with it. I'm experiencing this, and then I'm experiencing that's it, and be with it.
Fantastic.
And so light energy makes a huge difference, huge impact on that.
So to create a light energy, let go of the past, forgive. And one of the ways you recommend to do that is creating balance, and obviously journaling, and obviously the whole judging thing. If you're not familiar with Ho'oponopono, guys, I highly recommend you read a book called Zero Limits by Dr. Joe Vitale. It's the best one that I've found today on Ho'oponopono. What about yourself, Faisal? What is there any
Zero Limits is great. Yeah, Zero Limits is great. Also, I like the book Judgment Detox.
Judgment detox. Okay.
Yeah, that's really good. And but anything, there's so many resources. You know, the thing is, we have so many resources available. So you know, all you have to do is just go on the internet and online and YouTube. We have plenty of resources. It's fact that we need to actually put the work in. Actually, we need to put the work in. You know, we're in a data age. You know, we're in a data age. It's not the data age. We need to do the push-ups now. We know how to do the push-ups and pull-ups. That's what we need to get done.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where we, you know, we can root and support each other for that. So who's on your team? You need to have an amazing team around you.
Very true. So energy, what's the second component?
Body language. So body language is crucial. So body language, so when you enter the room or when you sit down, it's how do you show up? So are we closed or are we open? And a lot of people, when we feel stressed, we kind of tend to curve our back and then just be more closed. So more opening this part here, the opening the chest. A lot of guys, you know, we hold our stresses in our chest area. So this part then closes our energy off. So when we enter a room, it's that the energy is closed. When guys who really have a powerful presence is they're open, and then their energy then goes outwards. The masculine energy is about penetrating outwards, you know. And then the feminine, again, the feminine, if you know, holds their shoulders droop, or when you like more towards down, you know, you can tell someone of the high character, they'll be more open. So open body language, and body language is crucial. And it also kind of tells you what you're thinking, your internal world as well. So if you think, you know, when you see a depressed person or someone low person, you know, they are going to be very stooped. You know, someone who feels more confident about themselves, they are going to carry themselves in a much more powerful way. So body language is number two.
So there's a really interesting talk, a TED talk actually. I think it's a TED talk. It might be TEDx talk by Amy Cuddy.
Yes.
Body language. And because a lot of people would think, well, if I just all of a sudden sort of put my shoulders back and put my chest out, that's not going to change how I feel. But Amy Cuddy's TED talk proves different to this, right? So that's one of the things. Let me post it in the group. I'll see if I can find it in a sec. And I'll post it in the group for people to be able to see. If you haven't watched it, it's a really good TED talk to watch. And yeah, by being able to literally force yourself. So if you catch yourself sort of most people, if you sort of depressed, they're kind of like this, head down. But if you catch yourself doing it, then to be able to change your posture, then that will have an impact. And what advice would you give to people on the body language side of things for people that maybe aren't aware currently? What would you suggest to them to become aware and to make those changes? Whilst I find this TED talk.
Yeah. So first of all, the way I did it was I mimicked people. I mimicked people who carry themselves well, and I thought, okay, this person really knows how to use their body language. And then you just kind of practice in the mirror. And then I had some friends as well who said, Faisal, you know, your shoulders are a little bit too forward, so you can always get help from someone to help you correct that. Maybe a chiropractor as well. They'll be perfect for that. And again, when you align with your body language, the body language also communicates bidirectionally to your neurology. So it's bidirectional. So not only you see body language can affect your neurology, your emotions, and the chemical reactions that you can have with it, and vice versa. Because before we thought, you know, what happens, you know, whatever we thought happens in our body. But you know, the great thing is it's bidirectional. So we can change our body, we can change our chemicals in our body too.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Okay, so that's body language. And guys, if you did join late, I highly recommend you join the Elite Network community, which is our Facebook group. There's a post that we've got here, the official Facebook post, which you'll see is one of the top posts. And if you've got any questions about anything myself or Faisal are talking about, then post those there. I have just posted the Amy Cuddy talk, TED talk, Your Body May Shape Who You Are. So, or Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are, which is a really good talk, well worth watching if you haven't seen it.
Absolutely. And one more thing, smile. Okay, put on a smile. And the women asked me this question, and she said, the women asked me, Faisal, how can I get into my feminine energy really quickly? And I said, smile. Because when you smile, you lighten up the body. And then you bring in light energy. And the feminine is very like life energy. You know, the guys are very stoic looking. You know, when you see all the billboard posters for the guys and the movies, and they show the stoic look. For the, you know, you want to bring that smile in. You want to have the stoic look too. You know, it's quite endearing. But for the feminine, the smile is one way that it just lights up men. You know, when you put a smile on, it's like the light shining onto a solar panel. It just, you know, boosts you up. It's like, so yeah, smile is crucial. You know, when you enter a room, the smile, you know, and the smiling helps your, you know, biology too.
Yeah, again, there's a scientific study that's proven, funnily enough, they did it using pens, and putting pens in your mouth versus like the way I've just put it versus putting it like that, where you're almost pouting. There's it's a scientific study that was done. I did blog about it once. I have to find it and I'll post it. But it's it's a powerful thing, and also it's funny because people always say to me, what do you like in a girl? Like, and we've had conversations about girls before, and sort of my situation, and then I've always said, well, for me, it's not boobs or bum. It's not my thing. Like my two things are nice smiles and nice eyes. Like nice smile, nice eyes. That for me just does it. But a smile can light somebody's eyes up, you know. So
yeah. Smile, yeah. So if you want to build that attraction, especially ladies, smile. Just put it like, because it relaxes the body as well. The masculine is very rigid. So by innate, the masculine energy is very rigid energy. So if you, the feminine, sitting in rigid energy, then you're less likely to cause attraction to the masculine. Because just like north and south pole of a, you know, when you have two magnets, the north and south, they build attraction because of the north and south. Now, if you were to turn the magnets around, what would happen is they will repel. So the north and south attract, right? North and north or south to south will repel. The same applies energetically to humans too. So two people, so they could be the same sex, one is in masculine, one is feminine, will build that sexual polarity and cause that sexual attraction between each other. If you have two people in the same energetic state, you're more likely to cause repulsion. So whether you're same-sex couple or opposite couple, this energetic principle applies to all.
Love it. Third component.
Language. To be charismatic is your language.
Speaking Chinese or like, or I've got to talk French, like we're from Paris.
Oh, the French. Can you do the? Oh, okay. Are you good with accents? Are you good with accents?
No, I'm terrible.
Are you? I have a friend. He's amazing with accents, right? And it's so charming. Especially the French accent does it for me. Which one's yours?
I would have to probably say American or South African are probably my well, English, American, and then South African. But yeah,
okay.
Ultimately English is still number one.
Right. Okay. So South African and okay, American.
Yeah.
For me, it's the French. You know, the French is so eloquent, so beautifully said. It's like woven rather than just like hush, hush, hush. So language is very important, and not only just it's not necessarily about the way you sound or the accent. Is kind of like what kind of words do you use? How do you speak about yourself and others? You know, not only just the language, but also the belief behind that. So, for example, do you talk highly of people? Do you talk highly of situations? What words do you use? You know, what kind of words did you use? Well, so language is very important because if you want to be charismatic, you know, you don't want to be, to me, like I am helping my kids, you know, sometimes they pick up a lot of slang as well and helping them to correct them, saying, okay, you know what, this is great. And I can understand, you know, this is used in the playground, but how about let's introduce some different names? You know, for me, I struggle with language a lot. You know, when it came to languages, I was a master at computer programming. So I spent a lot of time, you know, with computer programming. But when it came to just language itself, it's like fine tuning that, and adding finesse to that, and adding some really good words to that.
Yeah, I completely get that. So we've just had a question come in from Matt.
Yes.
Who's asked about opposites attracting. And he said, do you think like can attract like in some cases too? For example, in the law of attraction, people talk about like and like. What's your opinion on that?
Okay, so when it comes to energy, so when it comes to sexual energy, opposite law applies. When it comes to energy of people, then yeah, the same kind of resonant energy applies. So for example, let's take the lift example. I love the lift example. So you're on the ground floor. Okay, so maybe just you're new to personal development, or you're at the ground floor. So every time you go to the ground floor, you know, your lift goes to the ground, you know, you're maybe at the basement, go to the ground floor, whatever energy you're at, you'll meet those people at that floor. Now, as you go, say, more conscious, more enlightened, more developed, then you go to the next level. Then, and when you go to the the second level, then you'll meet like-minded people. You'll connect more and attract more at that level. So as soon as your energy starts going up and up and up, then you start meeting and connecting and being around different people. So in that case, yeah, like attracts like energetically. But when it comes to sexual energy, the masculine and feminine, it's at polar opposites.
Cool. So Matt, hopefully that answers your question. Feel free to comment if you've got any other questions in regards to that. And again, guys, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask as we are working our way through it. Okay, cool. So language, so sort of use of certain words, not obviously necessarily the actual language you're speaking, but the use of certain words. And I think that's really important because again, when we're talking about building charisma and having irresistible charisma, we're not just talking in the dating sense and obviously with partners. Having charisma in business and in the workplace is really important as well, you know. So I remember when I used to work in investment sales, I was a young, very ambitious, don't get me wrong, but young individual. But I could communicate with guys that were 50, 60 years old that had been investing for 20 or 30 years because I was talking their language, the type of language, literally the type of words that I would choose to use to describe certain situations or certain vehicles, investment vehicles or investment instruments that we were using at the time was language that they would get. So I was talking in their language to be able to communicate, because ultimately I wanted to communicate in their world. So yeah, I can definitely see how that's a transferable skill set across the board for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Fantastic.
The fourth component.
So the fourth one is this is something I love to do with my clients and also workshop and take them through a journey. So this is more about the vision building. Now there's a lot of traits about charisma. There's lots of you know, archetypes for charisma too. Now what I like to do is I like to help the person build their own true essence, to bring that out. And then what I do is I have this exercise. It's called a person of value, a person of high status value. Now, there's about 30 questions. We're going to go through with 7 of them. And now what this is about, visualizing and really building and seeing the kind of person you want to be. So the first question I ask is, how does a person of value show up in the world?
Okay.
So how does a person of value show up in the world? Now, when I say this, I said, you know, just close your eyes and say, how does a person of value show up in the world? And then after this, then we break it down. I break it down, and then we go in more details. Whatever comes to your mind, say, how does a person of high status, of high value, how would they be showing up in the world?
And give us some examples. Typically, I appreciate this is all going to be individual. It's because it's all of their based on their own perspective. But what are some examples of the traits that people would typically tend to choose?
So for this one, they will show up in, for example, in either love, in power, in confidence. So showing up in confidence, showing up in power, showing up in strength, showing up in certainty, showing with also displaying compassionate, being empathetic. You know, and they show up with leadership skills, and they show up with like a warmth. There's a warmth to them, but also there's also like a feeling of certainty with them. There's also a high energy with them, but they also know how to, you know, like rule the room in a way, or and themselves. So it's not all just always about the high energy, but it's also about the calmness. And for me, like a person of value shows up very grounded, very aligned, aligned to themselves, aligned to the world, aligned to their purpose, and what is them they feel about this.
Fantastic. So it's creating an awareness of what they ultimately would want to be showing up as, I guess, really by identifying what that person of value would be, looking at the individual traits, modeling other people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, a man of value would show up with, he'll be grounded. So a man of value, I see him as a grounded man. A man of value, he has certainty in his ability. He may not always have like a vision or purpose of where he wants to be, but he always has maybe, I'm working on something, I'm discovering something about that. So his value and beliefs is very strong about himself, how he sees himself. This is the character building about myself.
Cool.
And then, so this is like the top level of like how does a person of value show up in the world, and then what we do is break it down. So question number 2 is, how does a person of value see themselves? So how does a person of value see themselves? So how do they see themselves? So what is your internal world? What is your internal map about yourself?
Again, what would be some examples?
So person of value to me would see themselves, for me, how I see myself is that I'm a man who is passionate about learning, who's passionate about giving, serving, who's making so much changes in himself for the better connections that I can have with my kids. And the person of values, I see myself as someone who's vulnerable, someone who's strong, vulnerable, and there's always room for improvement. I see that as well. I'm not perfect. I get things wrong, but I'm also seeing myself as a forgiving person, a loving person, and a person that will connect to their heart. Will always go back to this place. And anytime I feel like lost, I'm always open to seeking help, seeking guidance. So there's lots of different traits that you can see. Like what I value. How do I see myself? And most of the time, we unconsciously see ourselves as, oh, fuck, I'm such an idiot, or yeah, I can't do this, or I can't do this, or maybe, yeah, I'm stupid, or maybe I'm not intelligent enough. Maybe I'm intelligent. To me, I never say I'm not intelligent enough. I'm like, hey, I can always learn. When I'm really passionate about something, I can learn. I can learn. I'm maybe not be all the smartest kid, but I can always learn. I can always grow. And like I said, it's not always about the data or the knowledge. We don't have to be the smartest person. And I love the quote. It says, people don't really care of how much you know until they feel how much you actually care about people.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Cool. Third question.
Third question is, how does a person of value care for oneself? So how do they care for oneself?
Cool. And some examples.
So for example, I care with, I eat well. Okay, most of the time, not all the time. So I eat well. Most of the time, I exercise most days. I keep myself motivated by remembering my purpose. I also care for myself, that finding out what's important to me. And also one of the things I really do is try to put as much as I can. I put positive thoughts in my mind, or thoughts that are serving me. So to me, I don't want to have thoughts about the past and negative. And I'm not saying they don't turn up. Of course, they show up, and then I start sometimes ruminating about them. So the most important thing is, how do I care for myself? Does these thoughts, these ideas, this concept help me? No, if they don't. Are these damaging thoughts and ideas, concept? Okay, so I don't need them. So a person of value really cares for themselves. They really look after the plant, take away all the weeds and everything like that. They really look after the thoughts that they have as well.
Love it. Cool. Fourth question.
What kind of attitude does a person of value carry? So is it I can attitude, or I can't be bothered. I can't be done with this. So it's like, what is your attitude towards life? So do you see the problem, or do you see the solutions, or do you look for the solutions? I'm like, are you like a negative? So are they facing up, or are you facing down? You know, so if you're facing down, it's like, oh shit, there's problems, blah blah blah. It's like, oh, there's opportunities. You know, there's opportunities, and what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What can I? How will this make me better? What is it that I can't see right now? You know, what is it that I can't see right now? Maybe there's a lesson for me that, you know, it's not apparent right now. So, you know, so I call it the winner's attitude. Always have the champion's attitude towards something, you know, and I don't have to be working like a full accelerator down all the time. But the fact is, you know what, I'm forgiving. What's my attitude? Yeah, I did something wrong. What's my attitude towards it? Am I going to condemn myself? I'm going to say, ah, man, you're really horrible, blah, 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 blah. Or am I thinking, you know what, I screwed up. I did my mistakes. You know, I understand this, and um, is it okay? I'm accountable for it. I take my full responsibility for it. And how am I going to move forward from this?
Love it.
So the attitude, yeah.
Cool. Fifth question.
So fifth question, what kind of level of compassion does a person value carry? So what kind of compassion do you have for the world? What kind of compassion do you have for yourself?
Cool. And would you describe yourself as someone that has a significant amount of compassion for yourself, or the opposite?
I would say I have a lot more compassion than I did before. And it's something that I've decided to build more of. You know, really understanding that, you know what, I love Eckhart Tolle's quote, and he said, you know, if I had the same upbringing, the same condition, the same circumstances, the same level of awareness, I would think and act and behave in exactly the same way. So if I was thinking the same way, I would act in the same way. I'm thinking, oh, okay, you know what? Sometimes there's maybe I'm not showing up in the way that I'm judging someone on. You know, a lot of common judgment is, oh, you know, they do stupid things. Then I'm thinking, where do I do stupid things? Or, my God, this person has no control. Maybe they're eating too much, or they're this. And I'm thinking, okay, where am I having, where don't I have the control? So anything I'm judging on somebody else, I'm like, where is that showing up in my life? Because, you know, every time you point a finger, there's always three fingers pointing back at you.
100%.
So,
Right?
right, okay, yeah.
100%.
And I'm thinking, well, yeah, maybe there's something going on in their world, you know. And I love the compassion exercise. It's a beautiful compassion exercise. And one of the I'll do one of the sayings is, just like me, this person is also seeking happiness for their life.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, there's a really good. So what a lot of people don't understand using judging, I don't know how much you touched about this in the book you mentioned, the judgment detox, but ultimately when we're judging others, it's stuff that we haven't dealt with within ourselves, you know.
No, absolutely.
And that stuff that's sort of unhealed, and it might not be the specific thing, but it's something that's relevant to it. There's a really good book called Search Inside Yourself by Chad Ming Tang, and he has a really good meditation that he does, or that he shares in the book, around sort of a similar kind of spin on Ho'oponopono, but different, and it's really good. But yeah, when you become aware when you're judging others, it's something that maybe someone's done to you in the past that you haven't healed. When we spoke earlier about being able to let go of the past and forgive, it's like one of the first component of building your energy. And yes, that's really, really, really good. So okay, cool. Compassion. Question 6.
So how does a person value care for others? So how do you care for others? How do you show up? You know, what kind of support do you give others? And it doesn't, we don't have to do grand gestures, you know, where it's like, how do you speak about others? How do you support others? Do you uplift others? Are you integral? Do you support others with honesty and truth? Or do you, or do you do the opposite? So it's like, how do you care for others?
Cool. And the 7th question?
The 7th question is, so what does a person of value think of oneself? So one is how they see, but what do they think about themselves? So what are the constant thinking going on in their mind? So for me, for a lot of my mind, so 90% of the time, I would say, I'm doing seminars in my mind. So all I'm thinking, so I have an audience in my mind, and I'm on stage and I'm speaking to an audience. This is 90% of my thoughts. So either I'm on stage, or I'm um, or helping someone one to one, or I'm always like looking at how am I helping people in life, or helping, if they're not in front of me, they're in my head.
I love it.
So I'm always coming up with creative ideas, creative thoughts. And sometimes in the shower, I'm like, oh my God, I just gave the best speech ever. I wish I had moments I could tap something in there, I could record it. And I do that for two purposes. One is because it'll help me public speak as well. And the second thing is that I'm reaffirming positive things in myself. So I'm looking at the reaffirming positive, because I want to have light energy. A light energy to me is very important. So having that presence of light energy, so when you show up in the room and then you're truly present, you're not bogged down with so much of other stuff. It's like, what's going on? And you can tell when someone's ruminating something, maybe that they're anxious about something, and you can feel that, right? When you show up, and your presence, will emanate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's part number 7.
Fantastic. So so the fourth thing, what do you label that fourth component?
So I call it so it's like visualization. So person of high status. So as personal value.
Right.
So personal value is like vision building. So you create a vision. I have like 30 questions I take the whole audience through.
Wow.
So 30 questions.
Had a taster of those with those 7.
Yeah, a taster. Yeah, we break it down even more. We break it down. How does a person of value, like what habits do they have? There's like so many different questions that, I ask them, and then I get them to visualize something. Like, what is the kind of person that you want to be? So this is a great reminder. It's like, oh, you know what? A person of value to me shows up with love, compassion, or a person of value shows up with power and strength. Whatever's important to you, or whatever's going in your world right now. So it's from creating from your own core.
Love it. So the 4 components to build irresistible charisma: energy. So have light energy. Your body language. So obviously be aware of your body language and make your body language appropriate. The actual language that you're using, and then being able to identify a person of value and act in that way. It's not just about identifying it, but it's being able to act and show up in that way, in that respect. So look, that's really, really, really good. And guys, hopefully you found that useful. If you've got any questions, again, feel free to post them so we can answer those. But one of the things I really wanted to touch on, because for me, these are elements that some people might deem they need to have in order to be charismatic. And what I'm interested in is, do you need to be charismatic and these things show up, which are self-esteem and confidence?
So confidence. I love the studies about confidence, and confidence is so for me, some people say I'm confident, and the people who really know me will know that I'm really shy. So my coach said to me, he goes, people they don't really see you, but I see how shy you are. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really shy. And even though I speak on stage, I can go in a party and just circulate and mingle, but really, I never used to be like this. And I tell you, even though I'm speaking on stage, I've spoken to, like a few hundred people. Do you know, I still feel shy or not confident to raise my hand. So if I'm in the audience, so when I attend a seminar, I don't put my hand up because I don't want to speak. It's unbelievable, right? And my if I go with a friend and they're like, "What? Hold on, you speak, to hundreds of people, but you don't want to share something and you want to put your hand up." I'm like, no. So confidence I love that. I love the saying that the act of confidence is what you do first, and then the feeling of confidence comes later. So the act of confidence you do first. So for example, for me, getting on stage, when I get on stage, I'm so terrified. Even now, it doesn't mean my emotions have gone. Even when I go on stage, even doing this, I'm feeling like there's a part of me feeling nervous, this shy, all of these things are coming in. But it's like managing these emotions and saying, okay, what's my higher purpose here? what am I really here for? I'm here to share my message, support people, and not am I the only person who's going to be feeling shy about it. So I remember when I used to go to networking events because of work, and I used to sit there quietly. I'm thinking, I please just the world just hide me, and I would start a conversation and it'd be so awkward. And I'm like, what do I say? And I still feel this sometimes. But again, confidence comes after the act. So remember that confidence comes after the act. So you start going to do the acts and act and act and act and act, and then the confidence starts building up.
Confidence comes
after the act.
The act. I love that.
And self-worth and self-esteem. This is crucial again. When you have the visualization, for example, what's your internal map now to what do you want it to be? So the personal value exercise is a great way to reprogram your internal map. So if you see yourself, I see myself as this or this or this. There's so many negative ways we can internalize ourselves. So when we have a powerful map and say, I see myself as a respectful, a compassionate person, and I also see myself as a person that I'm also growing, and I make mistakes, I get it wrong, I understand that too. I have this compassion with that. I will say something wrong. I might annoy someone. I do. I might piss someone off or something. I understand that. I don't always mean to do that. It's and sometimes I'm learning too. I'm learning too.
I love that. So what would be so you mentioned in order to build self-esteem, it's about being able to tweak, enhance, if you like, your internal map, and using the personal value questions is a good way to do that. And then obviously from a confidence perspective, confidence comes after the act. So actually identify what it is that you want to do and move forward, and be able to move forward from there. So good. So we had a question come through. I'm a purposeful woman and value that quality in myself. Would I have to aim to attract a guy who is not purposeful in order to maintain the sexual polarity? I'm not really attracted to unpurposeful guys. From Matt's partner. So how would the sexual energy work?
Okay, so I'm a purposeful, but that's fantastic. Purpose is great. So how sexual energy works is, for example, we need men and women. It's called the masculine energy because it's found in most men, but also it's as much prevalent in women as it is in men, or the yin and yang. So the purposeful energy is great at work. So at work, we need that purposeful energy. So a lot of women are now becoming very successful. They're becoming very independent. Now, when it comes to attracting, what happens is that a lot of women, when they show up on dates or even in their own relationship, they show up very much still in that mode, the masculine mode. Now, what I do is I invite the feminine to go into her natural state. So most women's natural state is the feminine. Most women's natural state is the feminine. Some are very balanced, and then a very few is the opposite. So, but most women have more feminine energy. Now, when it comes to building that attraction in the evening, or on a date or on a holiday, whatever, it's for the feminine to sit very comfortably in her own feminine energy. And the feminine energy is all about playful. It's fun. It's about flow. The feminine energy is about flow. It's like a dance. When you have the dance, when you have salsa or something, you have the man who's leading, and then you have the woman who's following. And the same thing applies with sexual energy. When the masculine leads, the feminine absolutely finds out a real tone on. Now, it doesn't mean that the woman can't lead. It's not about the leading. It's not about controlling. That's the difference. It's not about controlling. No person likes a controlling person. My feminine part of me, which is, I would say like 30% of me, loves to be led. Now, there's a great exercise that you can do. So, for example, if you guys are going to date, if you're going to a date night, it's a 3-hour exercise. First hour is that the feminine makes every single decision, or the woman makes every single decision. and then where you sit, what you drink or what you eat, every single decision the feminine makes. And then in that point, in that 1 hour, I want you to notice what's happening to your body. Do you feel stressed? Do you feel really agitated? And the second part is that you surrender, and then you let the guy make every single decision. So the first part, the guy just completely lets go, completely surrenders. And in the second hour, it's the other way around. Third hour, just let nature show up. Just let nature show up. And when we have fear showing up, when we want to have control, that's where a lot of problems happen as well. So a lot of sexual polarity is lost because we become neutral. So a lot of sexual attraction becomes lost because we become neutral on this, or we become opposite.
Interesting.
How can a woman surrender if the guy is not a leader? Okay, so how can a woman surrender when a guy is not a leader? There's a lot of questions that we can ask about what's actually going on, the dynamic between you. Is you're surrendering not for necessarily him, you're surrendering more for you, for your own well-being. And also sometimes there are a lot of guys that are afraid of leading. You know, I've been one of the complaints my ex-wife had and my ex-partners had was, you know, Faisal, you don't lead. And there's a reason for a lot of men not being able to be decisive enough, not to be passionate about what they want to go and how they want to move into the world, is because there's also a what you call it is an invisible link to their mother. So this is going real deep into psychology. We don't have time for this, but this is going real deep into psychology. And a lot of guys then feel like, I can't lead on this because I might upset mother. If I upset mother, then mother will be displeased. And all I want to do is please the mother. And the only way I know to please the mother is like whatever you need. And then most of the time, the mother is able to make the decisions. You know, like when you're like 4 or 5 years old, you can't make a decision. You don't know how to make someone happy. So you're unable to make something because the mother's making all the decisions, then you leave that process to her. So yeah, it's a very challenging thing. And also, one of the ways you can do is that you can invite the guy as well. So invite the guy into the energy. For example, you could say, I love when you're very decisive or you make decisions, because it allows me just to relax and enjoy the evening. And it says, so we can always invite someone into an energy. Rather than saying, I want you to lead or you're not a leader, is I love when you lead, it makes me feel happy, or it makes me feel loved, or it makes me feel connected. One of the other things is presence. Like a lot of guys lack like total optimum presence when it comes to the feminine. And the women are craving this presence from men. There's like when I speak to a lot of women and say, men are not present. And I said, and sometimes they feel that disconnection. When the feminine feels this disconnection, not present, it hurts the feminine because her primal need is that connection. So when we have this disconnection, one of the ways I say is invite the person into where you want to be. So one of the ways we can do that is, when you're present, it makes me feel loved. It makes me feel seen. And how does presence show up? When you pay me full attention, even if it's for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes with no other distraction, and it's just you and I just connecting. We have amazing eye contact. We face each other, and there's no distractions about that. That makes me feel loved. That makes me feel connected.
Love it. Well, guys, I hope you took something from that. I certainly found that incredibly interesting. And I mean, I know we should do another webinar at some point about masculine and feminine energy, because I know it's quite the topic, and it always creates interest, let's say, from all parties. So yeah, that's really cool. So was there anything else that you wanted to add that we haven't maybe covered so far with regards to Irresistible Charisma? Because I know we've sort of just about bang on, actually, funnily enough, 8:50.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to mention, maybe before we go in to see if there's any other questions that have come up.
Yeah, one of the things is really show up true from you, really show up from your core, and allow that to shine. And a lot of times that we show up in different masks. You know, we show up in different constructs. I need to be like this. I need to be like this. Now, really show up with what's important to you, and really connect to those parts of you, and and be the better version of you. And just keep improving, keep getting lighter. Bring more lightness in the world. We need more lightness in the world. We need more smiles in the world. We need happiness in the world. So that's what we need to have more of. We have so much pain. We have all of this. We don't really focus on that. We need to be aware of that. Yeah, we need a lot more lightness in the world.
Love it. Well, look, Faisal, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and it very much is wisdom this evening. And guys, I truly hope that you've benefited from this. I've benefited from this. I always love having great guests like Faisal on Wheels webinars, because ultimately we all get to learn, and I think there's some real great takeaways there, and some things to be able to be going over. So just before we round up, if anybody does have any questions before we go, I'll leave it sort of 30 seconds or so. So quickly type your questions if you've got a question coming. And then other than that, we'll obviously leave Faisal to go on and enjoy the rest of his evening. But just whilst anybody's typing any questions, if people do want to connect with you and thought, oh, I love this guy, I want to find out more about him, how can people connect with you and find out more about you, Faisal?
Yeah, so you've seen all the links from Will as well. So yeah, find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Faisal Khokhar. I'm sure Will can, you might type in my full name because it's not easy to spell. Yeah, I teach a lot on Facebook as well, and on Instagram. So yeah, I'm always teaching on there. And yeah, this year I'm going to be doing a lot more online programs as well. So yeah, look out for them.
Fantastic. So Faisal, once again, thank you very much. It doesn't appear that we've got any other questions. So if you have got one, guys, quickly type it fast. Otherwise, you'll have to post it in the group, and then Faisal's in the Facebook group, and I'm sure he won't mind answering any questions that come there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Faisal, thank you again. It's been great having you as a guest.
Fantastic.
And everybody that's tuned in, thank you very much. If you're watching this on replay, I hope you've enjoyed it. And until next time, guys, make it happen.
Thank you so much. Take care. Stay blessed.